Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for a collective reading, for a reading for the collective about the 8th of April solar eclipse and some of the other interesting things that seem to be going on in the world around all of that. I don't entirely know how this is going to go or even if I'm going to publish it. So if you're seeing it, then I have decided to publish it. But I've been sort of trying to almost avoid doing this. For some reason, I'm really strongly called that I should do it, so I'm doing it. And we'll just see how it goes. I personally have some trepidation about this eclipse coming up. I don't know exactly what it means, is maybe what we're going to explore a little bit. But it's more the periphery things around it. I mean, an eclipse, it's an eclipse, whatever, but the fact that NASA is going to be shooting rockets and calling this particular thing Apep, which is the Egyptian dragon or serpent god of chaos, is disturbing, and for various personal reasons I find it particularly disturbing, but I won't necessarily go into that. But that I find interesting. CERN is sort of starting operation again around the same time. All of these sort of things on a kind of a broader energetic level, I think, is very powerful and a little bit... I don't want to be, like a doomsday person or anything like that, but it's a little bit disturbing. Like the imagery and the energy is a little bit disturbing. But what I would like to do is sort of explore that, what it is that could be casting its shadow after this. I doubt very much. I mean, there are all sorts of advisories apparently that have gone out in America about, watching out if the grid goes down, but it's probably not unreasonable that some people say that the reasoning for that is that a lot of people travel to areas to see an eclipse, and so it could be an overload on those areas. So one doesn't want to be conspiratorial about everything. I also think that, like most major astrological things, its shadow, for good or not so good, will cast a long way out from where it is. But I think that we can even feel the energy coming in, and I feel kind of agitation. I just feel that it will mark something that in the longer term you could almost date back to it happening. That's the feeling that I've got about it. So then I kind of communed in about how would I look at this, and I felt really drawn to laying out some cards from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. Now these I chose. I did not shuffle and bring these out. These I chose for very specific reasons, because I wanted to look at it through a number of different lenses. I wanted to look firstly at what I would call almost the sort of spirit energy that I feel is around this. Now, the void is not necessarily bad by any means, but the concept of an eclipse where the energy is dark for a moment in the daylight, the CERN being enacted, or the thing, as I say, the concept of like a NASA project being called APEP. There feels something kind of chaotic, formless in all of this, and I almost feel like there are warring energies about how this eclipse energy is going to be harnessed. That's the feeling that I have about it. So I felt the void was a good way of encapsulating the moment of the spirit or inspiration, and the void is it's very much in the ether, in the kind of unmanifest, in what could be. So I want to explore that energy. I then wanted to have a look at what I would almost call the action and consequence energy. And that I'm feeling with the Great Serpent. I feel that this is about almost the karma that we're laying down, and possibly the karma that we're clearing. As I say, it's not necessarily the case that this is a negative occurrence astrologically at all. It's just that I think it's big. So I think that there are some big cycles coming to an end and new ones coming to the beginning. The fact that it's in Aries, so it is the first sign of the zodiac. I just feel like this was a good sort of way of depicting the energy of action and consequence around this. Then I wanted to look at the sense of analysis of what's going on, and so I felt like separation or separatio, the sense of things being separated out and looked at kind of as their constituent elements is sort of the feeling that I have about this, and also the beginning and the end, the past flying into the past, the future flying into the future, something like that around understanding it. And then the synthesis with conjunctio, the synthesis of the energy, like what does this mean in the end and how can we best use it? And then what I wanted to do is I also wanted to just explore the fact that Mercury is retrograde in the midst of all of this. And it's partly because of a dream I had. I've mentioned it in a few replies to comments, so people may or may not have seen this. But I had a dream a while ago that my spirit guide said to me that we are entering the eon of Mercury. That is actually the eon that we're entering. Now, I'm not saying, oh, my dream is right and all the other stuff is wrong. I'm just saying that was what the dream was. And that's really interesting because what I said to my spirit guide in response was, well, that makes sense with the communication, with the rapid information that we get, all of that sort of stuff and all the energies that come with that. I said, but we have to be careful because Mercury is a trickster. Now, I like Mercury as a planet. I have a Gemini ascendant, so it's not like I have a negative view on Mercury, but it interests me that the planet that can be both about information, speed of thought, speed of development, speed of inspiration is going retrograde at the time this is going on. I think it would potentially up the trickster element. So that's the other thing I want to explore. So I thought that what I would start with is just getting a kind of very spiritually oriented card, spiritual or astrological card, depending upon what we get, in a deck I have that has the Kabbalah and astrology, to look at the energy around each of those elements, just to see if we can understand it a bit more. And then I'm using a deck that I actually haven't used on my channel before, because it's sort of more a deck I got for my own sort of fun. It's a deck that kind of looks into what's behind the news and, you know, almost conspiracy and true crime and all sorts of things. But I just felt like there's sort of something in the energy of all of this where I feel there could be things under the surface. And so getting a little bit of a sense of that. Then some tarot, and then I think possibly tarot may be the thing that kind of closes it out. I'll just say, and that there might also be kind of like spiritual energy to look at the end too. But I'm just going to go with what I instinctively feel. So for the void, so as I say, I'm just asking here now, Spirit, around what is a really prevailing spiritual energy that's happening in this kind of center of potentiality that this eclipse represents. And this I want for this collective. I'm asking for the sake of this collective, what we could take from this, what we could understand. So, okay, so we get an astrological energy. Energy of Sagittarius. Now, this is interesting because it is in Aries that this is going on, so it's another fire sign. But Aries begins things. Sagittarius is the sort of energy of freedom. So there might be something here about freedom. But I think it's also the collective here to not be too concerned, no matter what is going on, to be of good humour and really think about what their freedom means to them. So this card says, with pure motive, joy and a good heart, I go forward to conquer my goals and reach my ideals. Strong of enthusiasm and spirit, I shall not falter. My amiable character allows me to take the rough with the smooth. Even when I am competing, I give others a fair chance. I have confidence and optimism in myself and in the world. With my boundless energy, I concentrate on my target, focus on my mind, and hold my course. I make my goals and visions a reality. So I think this is saying for this collective, there is a lot of potential that is good in this. And so I think it might be very important to focus on what are your dreams, what are your goals, what are your visions in that moment, in that time of the eclipse, whether you can see it or not. Focus on that. What would you want to bring in with a good heart? Because it's almost as though if there are forces that are potentially, let's say, darker operating around some of this, then what we need is for the forces of good, the forces of sort of pure good heart to also be almost peering into the void to put that energy into the void. So I think that's interesting and that is positive. I'm really happy to see that. So then the action or consequences. What should we understand for our own karmic development, for our life path, and for what we might put in play if we bring this energy against what could be being put in play by larger forces outside of our control. Trine. That's good. Harmony, again, natural talents come to the fore. Harmonious energy, comfortable and easy. So I think this is saying don't overstress this, don't worry. This should be easy enough for this collective just to kind of ease into the energy of what it is that we would like to bring in. It's It's almost like it's saying that whatever else is going on, you can, out of this energy, you can create a new reality. Again, the whole thing happening in Aries, the new cycle. You should be looking for what is easeful, what is harmonious. Again, it's a kind of a calling towards what can we do to be in harmony with each other. So then, and now analysing it, like looking at what is the impact of this and understanding what, in a sense, we should go forward with and what we should separate from. Opposition, okay. Wow. Law of polarity, two forces in opposition, tug of war. This is a real call towards peace, towards harmony, and towards moving away from war. I've got to say, it's a very clear message coming up here. In our individual lives, we may not be able to do a lot about this, but it is saying really clearly that there is something here about the combination of those of good heart and those of peace towards the energy of this, so that instead of being in opposition, we are separating out from it and we are understanding it. I find this actually, I'm really glad I decided to do this reading, because I find this really heartening. I feel like somewhere in the heart of all of this and the potential of all this, I've been saying for quite some time that we seem to be being set up, and this is a trickster element of Mercury, by the media to be in opposition to each other. And this is saying what we should be separating out from that is that we should think about where we are in harmony, where we can actually meet and be of good heart together, where we have a similar goals, similar outcomes. So then that leads nicely to the synthesis. Therefore, what should we join with? What should we be able to create anew out of this energy? Okay, communication, Gemini, and that's interesting with Mercury. I think communication, Zephyr air, archetype messenger, resourcer. So the air is a bit like the ether, bringing a message out of this, a message of ease, a message of harmony, a message that is against polarity and against law, a message of synthesis. This is what we can do, and there is something in the way that we communicate. There is a different way of communicating that is important, using the communication skills that we have to bring about something different to what this energy is. On a ritual magic level, and I do think, I have to be frank, I do think that ritual magic will be happening at this eclipse. I really do. And I don't know that it's always going to be good. I think this is also saying ritual magic through anybody in this collective who does it for the good, anything like that, that is speaking the language of the divine, speaking the language of the angels, speaking the language of harmony, care, good heart. Very, very powerful. And particularly, as I say, with Mercury, it's like connecting to that energy. So with Mercury, as I say, within retrograde, the unusual can happen, the unexpected can happen around communication. So if we think about the fact that the world for a while now has been using the media and communication to keep us in opposition, this is where you could flip the whole thing. Now, it might not be obvious immediately, but by communicating, speaking that, prayer, ritual, whatever it is that you do, just talking with people, like on the day, just ringing up friends that you haven't spoken to for ages, settling old disputes, any of those things, it flips it. That's what I think this is about, flipping that energy. So let's see what we get with Mercury reversed or Mercury retrograde. The ethic triad, might, mercy, and beauty. So this is a particular part of the Kabbalah. It picks up Tiphereth, which is sort of like your Christ consciousness. And I always say this doesn't mean you have to be a Christian. It's just as a concept of the concept of beauty and the concept of the heart, the good heart. With Gevurah, which is our self-discipline, and with Hesed, which is our kindness, our strength, our mercy, and our beauty. That should be what we're focusing on. That's the triangle. Actually, that's the trine. That's the trine. We should be thinking about how we best use our discipline, our strength, our might. Might on its own is not right. It is only right when it is connected with beauty and with kindness. That is the triangle that is powerful. That is what is strong. We can bring a new message out that is about that it is not just about the rule of law. It is about the rule of law with compassion. It is about finding the heart in things. That's the energy that is possible to do with this. because there are new beginnings. There are new beginning energies here, and harnessing the communication, that has a lot to do with it. So I think that anything that is in that space, if you are thinking in your life, how do I best manifest this? How do I move towards the right balance, the right ease? It is thinking about what is beautiful in your life that you would protect, but you would also nurture. That's the thing to think about. The relationships, the lifestyle that you have, the caring for others, all of that sort of thing. And ethics matter. Ethics matter. Ethics are the realm of the soul. It's not just, sitting and feeling high vibration and deciding one's going to ascend. It's in fact, if anything, it's coming down into the world to do this, to manifest it in the world where action can be eased if it is in connection with that, and communicating what is to bring us together, separating out what has kept us separate. So it's very powerful on that level. That's very positive. That's more positive than I expected, to be honest. What I do want to also do is just draw one tarot card for each. Then I'm going to use that deck, as I was saying, to sort of see what could be happening within the world more generally around this, because I do feel the first part of this is a message for the collective about what we can do. The second part, I just want to have a look at what's going on more generally in the world, because I do think that there are energies around this that we need to be aware of, let's put it that way. So firstly, around the void, where we have this open, joyous, good heart, what other energies do we need to be aware of? We have judgment. There is a calling. There's a reason I was meant to do this reading, I'd say. There is a calling. And look how we have an angel here. It's a resurrection too. What is being resurrected at this time? Something's being brought back. Something's being resurrected. And it connects a lot with the Great Serpent. It connects a lot with Ouroboros. It connects a lot with the concept of karma, because judgment is also about that. This is an important eclipse, everybody. As I say, there are many eclipses that occur, but this is important. And I'm not even entirely sure whether it's just important astrologically. I just think it's being made important by the warring forces, so we have to be aware of that. So then when we have a look at the action and cause and reaction energy with the trine, where it's meant to be easeful, the Five of Cups, letting go of old pain, old disappointments, clearing things emotionally, but understanding there is still something worthwhile. The thing about the Five of Cups is there's nearly always two cups upstanding. It's a message that something has been disappointing, something's been hard, and I think life has been hard. Life has been difficult. We have been dealing with a lot, particularly in the space of like war and conflict for so long, that it almost feels like it's the natural state. But this is to remind us that there is still beauty in the heart, and there is still beauty in the emotional energy. We can understand that the past is done, and we can move forward with those two cups. We can move forward. And that also makes me think, two cups makes me think of the conjunctio. We need to be sending out a message that we are still sovereign and free to create our own lives and our own karma. So then separation, the energy of what is it that we need to separate out from, beyond the sort of sense of just opposition in and of itself and war as of a way of being. With the King of Cups reversed, there are some wounds that can't be healed, because the King of Cups to me is always Chiron when he's reversed. He's always Chiron. He's the wounded healer. There are some wounds that can't be healed. This is why we have to be prepared to move on towards what we can do. We can't reverse what has occurred. We can't stop where the dark energy is trying to influence things. All we can do is understand that compassion separates us out from the energy of war. And I think it's also saying there are some people we can't heal. Some people are in love with war. Some people are in love with opposition. We're not going to reach them, and there's There's no need to do that. We need to understand the limits of what we can do. And then in the conjuncture, when we're looking at the message of bringing those that we can connect with, how we can group together, how we can create a world that, or a soul, a place for the soul that is powerful but kind and beautiful, the conjunction energy is the magician. There's the magic. We have just as much magic as a collective. And those who are of good heart and who wish to heal the energy. Feel a bit of the Fisher King around that as well too. We have that ability. The magician is also very mercurial. There is something about communication. There is a call to us to understand where we are being tricked and where communication is creating this an unconquerable wound, where that is just being fed, and there are going to be energies around this that are like that. But we also have the power, we have the ability to communicate the different vision. So let's see the tarot card for Mercury retrograde at this time. 10 of Cups. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. I honestly will tell you, this surprises me, and I'm really happy that it's surprising me. I feel a lot more hopeful having done this. Maybe this is why I was being pushed to do it. I think it's possible. That sense of sort of connection, caring, soul family, all of that kind of thing. I feel as though, even though there may be forces that are trying to bring back things that are dark and connected, like the warlike gods, the kind gods are coming back as well. There's the potential in this time for good just as much as there is darkness. And I think that the naming of things and some of the sort of stuff around it and all the sort of alarmism is meant to kind of harness the darker energy, but we just need to harness the lighter energy. It is within us. It's very interesting because one of the things that made me want to do this was I was watching some YouTube thing that came up on my feed, and it was talking about some of the sort of, it was talking about biblical references to this sort of time and so forth. And it was talking about how at the time when it is necessary, and this is paraphrasing incredibly, people will prophesy. And I felt so strongly when I was doing the soul activation series, there was a whole through line for at least one group that was about prophecy. I think that many of the people in this collective are the prophets of this age, and the magicians of this age, but for what is good. And I'm feeling really emotional now. I feel like it's possible to deal with this. So let's have a look at what it is that I feel we're dealing with. So as I say, I'm going to use this deck that I really haven't used on this channel before. It's very large, so I use it in 2 lots. It's too big to use as one. So I'm just going to use that as the way. See, the deck is this big. I'm going to use the first pile, and then I'm going to use the second pile. And I'm just asking for what will we see in the world? What do we need to understand of the world? So that we stand together, so that we understand those souls that are close to us, but also so that we understand where is the wound that can't be healed, so that we're aware of it. You know, it's not to catastrophize, it's just to know what do we need to be aware of. And this is going to be very, very pragmatic, everybody. This is very of this 3D world. Wow, life insurance. I'm just going to put down a bunch of cards and then see. Natural disasters, all right. Republican. Doesn't have to be Republican necessarily, but political, I would say. Knife. Work. Road. Okay, all right. I think that there may be one or more politicians who are in danger, to be honest, under this sort of energy or coming up. With the life insurance, with Republican, with knife, and with sort of the end of the road, or where is the road leading? I think that we're going to see a very definitive, because the knife is part of the separation. I think we're going to be seeing a very distinct difference between various political parties in whatever country you're in. I'm in Australia, so Republican is not really a thing for us. We have a different sort of political setup. But in America, of course, Democrat, Republican, and Independent or Libertarian. I feel like there's something around what may or may not be an actual natural disaster, but there's something. I think this may be picking up the energy actually of being careful. Careful on the roads, careful around it. If you happen to be anywhere where people can see the solar eclipse, I think there is some wisdom in being careful, because if there is an influx of people, but I feel like this is more allegorical. I feel like this is talking about some very big separations and maybe surprising separations. I think that we'll see some potential betrayals within the political realm. I think that I think that you're going to see the end of certain political careers for some reason. I think that's coming up off the back of this. And some will think that that is necessary for the work to be done, for things to move forward. Some will think that's a disaster. But I also think it's a time, that not really sure how much I can say on YouTube actually, but I feel like there's a feeling here that you could see some fairly extreme sort of situations around political energies. You may see a natural disaster having some impact on political outcomes. There is betrayal. And a feeling like with people who are in power, there's a lot of sort of like preparation and self-preservation going on. That's kind of what I feel about it. Let's see what else we get from the second pile. Great reset, okay. Premeditated, okay, all right. This is maybe clarifying. Fire. Neighborhood reversed. Fired. Oh, okay. Vampire reversed. All right. Thinking these are clarifying. The Great Reset, of course, does refer to the sort of concept of the Great Reset that many talk about, and that many call a conspiracy theory, but the architects of the Great Reset write about it quite openly. So I don't think it's necessarily a conspiracy theory. I think that maybe the motivations behind it are a matter for different sort of viewpoints or whatever. But there is, I feel like there's sort of something where people involved in this are looking at how they protect themselves. But there's something, this may not be as natural as it appears. There may be something that appears like it's a natural disaster. It doesn't necessarily have to be linked directly to the eclipse or the time of the eclipse, but I think coming up around political things, but it's actually premeditated. There is something going on. My guess is this is American politics. My guess is this is like in the Republican Party. I'm not going to get into any kind of bias one way or the other. I'm just saying what I see because I don't like political tarot. So I kind of went, oh, when I saw the Republican come out. But I would say that there is something where there is a... If I was in the Republican Party, let's put it that way, with these cards, I would be thinking there is someone who is not actually of my belief structure who's in there, who's infiltrated it and is looking to create discord. So I think we're going to see discord around that. Now, whether it may not be the Republican Party, it might be either political party, it might be just politics in general. There is a lot of betrayal operating within that. And there's a lot around conflict, maybe around land, property, that kind of issue as well going on. There could be a lot of people losing their jobs as some of this moves forward. But if that's the case, it's almost as though this is meant to actually free people. It feels like being fired, but it's being freed from something that was draining the energy. And so I feel like this isn't so much the end of the road, but the new road. It's just that it's a little bit hard to see where that's going. So I feel like there's a sense here that coming off the back of a lot of political turmoil and game playing. There's some major issues around how we live, what we do, all of that kind of thing coming up. But it's more premeditated than it appears. But there's also a way, I feel like this is almost saying that there is actually, in the very thing that is sought to trap the general populace, there's actually a freedom. There's a freedom built within it. So I'm just going to draw just some more cards just for anything else we get this. I think it's a bit like the message I'm getting here. It's like there's a kind of premeditated disaster that's meant to make us feel like we have to move into what they've put just to feel safe. But there's a lot of politics going on. And in fact, what appears to be the end of what we want or what we could achieve, it's actually freedom. Like it's like somewhere, it's like the law of unintended consequences. Somewhere within all of this, we can shift the energy to something that is more freed and more of an open road for everybody. So just one more line of cards I feel I need. Stalking, okay. Freedom, freedom again, okay. Solar flare reversed. Oh, that's interesting, given that we've got the solar eclipse. Yes, reversed. Solved. Greed reversed. I think what I feel really strongly looking at this is that there is a particular premeditated plan, and there's something about the energy within this eclipse and with what's going on that's meant to be taking us into almost being entrapped, but it's going to have the exact opposite effect. It's going to boomerang back. The trickster energy, I think it's really interesting. The solar flare reversed here. The Mercury card, as I said, I reversed it because Mercury is retrograde. Something appears to be going in a particular direction, but it isn't. It's a trick. And I don't feel like it's a trick on us. I think it's actually a trick on those that think that they're going to grab power out of this. It's not going to be what they think. And there's like a kind of a solution that comes out of the very problem. It's like a problem is trying to be created and energy is trying to be created to kind of bring back a very old style of sort of like rulership and control and all of that kind of thing. And it's all about surveillance. It's all about kind of like what you're allowed to own or not own, making you feel vulnerable. It's premeditated, but it's actually going to prove a way of freedom. Like I really feel it's going to reverse on them. Those that are wanting to use this in a dark way. And I do personally believe there is that kind of energy. So that's really positive. So the last thing I think I want to do is I just want to get just a few cards from the Straight Talking Tarot for any other advice for us on a general level, because I feel this is talking about what's happening on a macro level politically. And it's like all the sort of ruling parties that want to control in various ways are going to kind of turn on each other in this tug of war. We just need to step away from it. We need to be communicating what is in common between us, what is the vision that we have, what is beautiful that we can still move forward with, what is an open heart. Because eventually this is going to turn back on them. Mercury's tricking them. Mercury's tricking them in the best possible way. So just any last advice for this collective? Freedom again. Wow. Yeah, this is all about freedom. Freedom is the most important thing at the moment. Choice is the most important thing at the moment. Revival, the revival of freedom, the revival of the soul. It's not that we have to leave. It's not the exit. It's not the end of the road. And just one more. Yeah, we don't need to stop anything. We don't need to leave anything. We just need to sort of lean into the energy of a good heart and freedom and find what joins us and what connects us, because the energies that are darker in the world, and I think, we'd all have to accept that there are dark energies that are trying to sort of separate us and box us in and control in one form or another. Something's going to flip on them. Something's going to flip on them. They think they're doing something, but what actually happens will be different to what they think. And I've often thought that about AI, to be honest. I've felt for a long time that there's a certain thought process, with the singularity and all that kind of thing about what people think is going to happen with AI, but I don't think that's what's going to happen with AI. I think that it's going to open up something that is potentially good in the end. It's just a personal theory. But I don't think it was necessarily intended for good. But I think things have a way of working out. So I'm really happy I did this reading. I hope that it was helpful for you. I think the main message here is that there's going to be a lot of strange rubbish going on the political sort of level and the general media and all that. There's a lot of plans afoot, but it's almost like a bunch of sort of ravening beasts that are going to eat each other. And if we kind of almost try and ignore it and focus on what is the connection between us, our spiritual connection, the freedom to sort of go towards what is of the heart and what is beautiful, then and use our communication in that way, then I think all of this can be defeated. And we could look at a new renaissance. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that resonates for you. I'm happy I did it now. I hope that this does resonate and you enjoy it. I am actually publishing tomorrow a pick a card, which was done picking up some of the energies that I thought could be around this, but it wasn't actually focused on this. But it was more specific, and you'll see more specific things that are more personal. This, I think, is a little bit more macro. And as I say, I don't normally do these. If you would like me to do them sometimes, around astrological things or other sort of issues, do let me know. But I just felt I was supposed to do this one, and I think I'm really happy now that I was. So with that, I will wish you all very, very well.